Every successful entrepreneur has one, and it might just be the easiest tax saving strategy that you are not using. But here's the twist. It's not just about saving money. It's about building a business that grows with you, not just because of you. Imagine sitting around a table with people who know your business, believe in your vision, and help you make smarter decisions, and you get to write it all off on your taxes. Whether you're running a sole proprietorship LLC or growing an enterprise, having a board of advisors isn't just for the big leagues. It's one of the smartest moves that you can make financially and strategically. Today, I will break down everything that you need to know about it. So let's dive into it. First off, what is a board of advisors or an advisory board? And first I want to say board of directors is something that you might be used to hearing, and you might hear just because that's talked a lot about in the media. And a board of directors is for a corporation. A board of advisories or an advisory board is for LLCs or sole props or basically any other business outside of a corporation. And basically a board of advisors is simply just a group of people that help provide advice to you, help provide counsel to you, help support you in your business. And this is vital, I think, for every business, regardless of size. Now, we're going to talk about setting up a board and the benefits, the tax benefits, the other benefits that you might have. How do you need to document those board meetings? But I think the important thing about a board of advisors is understanding that every business should have it, whether you're just by yourself, and that's where a lot of confusion comes in. I talk to business owners on a regular basis, and they say, Mike, I am a solo business owner. I'm a small business owner. I'm making a little bit of money, but I don't really need a board of advisors because I'm just so small. But here's the piece to it. There's more benefits on it than just helping you out. There's some tax benefits, and we're going to talk about that. But just know that whether you're a sole proprietorship, whether you have no entity structure, you can still have a board of advisors. If you're an LLC, you can have a board of advisors. And again, it's just a group of people that help provide advice, counsel you, and help support you in running your business. So let's talk about how do you set up a board. First, you want to implement it in your corporate documents. So whether that's an operating agreement, whatever your bylaws, if you're a corporation, you want to set up this up and implement who is going to be on your board in your corporate documents. And you probably want to consult your attorney or whoever set up your entity to help make sure that that is being done properly. The next thing you want to do is you want to pick who's going to be on your board. This could be family members, this could be friends, this could be colleagues. And this is the important piece to it, is you want to pick people that are close to you, that you want to have their input on your business. And you might say, well, my family can't help me, or I don't want their input on my business, but maybe you do. Maybe they can give you some insights into how things are working. And not to mention that we're going to have board meetings. Once we set up our board, we're going to have board meetings. And maybe we can make some of those family meals deductible. Maybe we can make some of those family trips potentially deductible. We'll talk about that. So first off, you want to have it implemented in the corporate documents, and you want to pick who's going to be on your board. That can be family members, friends, mentors, colleagues, whoever you think is going to help bring some value and insights to your business when we start to hold these board meetings. And then the next piece is you want to put in place and pick regular meetings. So whether that's monthly, whether that's quarterly, whether that's annually, you want to set in stone when are these monthly or when are these regular board meetings going to occur. And this might come into place depending on the size of your business. So if you're just a small business, maybe you only do quarterly, or maybe you just do an annual board meeting. If you're a growing, really good, doing really well in your business, maybe you have monthly board meetings. It's just going to depend there, but make sure you have a regular schedule on when these meetings are occurring. Okay, so again, setting up a board, implement in your corporate documents, pick who's going to be on it, and set a regular schedule for when these meetings are going to occur. Next, we're going to talk about some of the tax benefits of having a board in place. But real quick, if you're looking for tax strategies that you can actually implement, I built a software called TaxHelp. We don't just show you how to save on taxes, we help you turn those tax strategies into real dollars saved with clear and step-by-step guidance and full implementation of tax strategies. So if you're serious about paying the least amount of taxes legally possible this year, click the link in the description below and book a free discovery call with our team. Now back to talking about the tax benefits of a board. So we're going to talk about next other benefits of a board, but let's talk about tax, because that's why a lot of people are here, right? How do I save on taxes? And there's two things I want to talk about first: travel and meals. When you host these board meetings, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, whatever it means, you're going to have meals associated with that, and you might have travel associated with that. And this is going to be tax deductible. So you have your board in, maybe your board member is 3 people. It's your spouse and your 2 children, and that's your board. Well, you're gonna have to have a meal to host that board meeting. You might do a travel in that, and we wanna be careful here. We don't wanna be traveling and turning these extravagant trips into board meetings, but maybe traveling for a one-day board meeting once a year could make sense depending on your business item. So when you set up this board and you host these valid board meetings, we're going to talk about how to document a board meeting. It can turn in and create these travel items. The lodging items are tax deductible. Meals are tax deductible, 50% tax deductible. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And it also opens up the door to the 14-day home rental rule, or what I like to call the Augusta rule. And this is basically a rule where you can rent out your business or your home, your personal residence, to your business, and you can get a business deduction and pay no tax on the income that's received from that. Now, there's a lot of things that we need to touch on, and we have podcast episodes, videos, all different things on this topic. It's especially there's even a topic on it in my book, The Small Business Tax Savings Handbook. But this opens up the door for that 14-day home rental. Let's say you have a monthly board meeting and you're going to host it at your home. Now, we're not going to use your home office for this board meeting. We're going to have it in maybe the living room, maybe in the dining room, maybe kitchen, maybe all three of them. We're going to host this board meeting there, and we need to find a reasonable rental rate. So what would it cost to rent out a boardroom at a local co-working space? And if we find that reasonable rental rate, we can now pay ourselves from our business, our S corporation. We can rent out our home from personally to our S corporation, get a business deduction, and pay no income tax on the income. If our total rental of our personal residence was 14 days or less, we don't have to pay any income tax on that. So the tax benefits of a board is obviously the travel associated with it, the lodging, the meals associated with these board meetings, but it also opens up the door for this 14-day home rental rule or Augusta rule. Make sure we're doing that correctly, though. Check out some of the previous things that I've done on those. So let's talk about some of the other benefits of a board. First off, asset protection. You know, when you have an entity structure, maintaining a corporate veil is super important, because in sometimes it's required by law, especially in a corporation. It's required to have an annual meeting, and so that's what this is being done. Now, if you're an LLC, it's not technically required, but can help support that, to say that you're maintaining this corporate entity you have. You're doing this for cleanliness. You have all this documentation of these meetings that are being discussed. It helps with asset protection, show that you're treating this as a real business. This isn't just some type of shell that's just sitting there. You're treating this as a real business by having monthly, quarterly, annual board meetings. The second piece is it helps having some outside perspective. You don't know what you can't see. And as an entrepreneur, I know this personally, especially in my earlier years, it can get lonely running your business. And you can get so deep dive into running your business that you don't see what's going on the outside. You don't have that outside perspective coming from the outside to help. And that's where this board can help. They can show you things that you can't see because you're too dug into your business. So it can be super helpful to bring an outside perspective, help you step away a little bit from the business and look at it from a high level. Well, having a board in these regular board meetings also keeps you accountable, because you can talk to your team and say, okay, here are some of the things that I'm working on. I'm working on building out this marketing plan that I want to launch 2 months from now, or I'm looking to build this out, or I want to hire someone in this role. And you can talk about this at your board meeting, and guess what? You're going to have another board meeting a month down the road, a quarter, the next quarter, whatever your cadence is. You're going to have another board meeting, and what's your board going to do? They're going to say, how's that marketing plan going that you implemented? Have you hired someone? What does that look like? It keeps you accountable, because you're going to have these regular board meetings that you have to attend, and then you have to bring back what you talked about previously and say, hey, where did we go? We kind of discussed last time. So it keeps you being held accountable, especially if you're a sole owner. You don't have anybody holding you accountable. Now your board can help do that for you. It also helps with planning. Having a board means you can step away from the day-to-day. You can step out of that business for a day, for a half a day, whatever you're doing your board meetings. You can step out of that business and think about it at a high level. You can start planning and saying, where do I want this thing to go? Because again, as an entrepreneur, we get so wrapped around in the whirlwind of the day-to-day that we don't step back to look at our business. And this can be super helpful in the form of a board meeting, while also having outside people that you respect, love, that you want to help do this along with you. It also, having this board can help for audit protection. You know, when you're having these board meetings, you can implement or put on record some of the things that you're doing, like implementing an accountable plan or determining what the reasonable salary is for the workers are going to be. It can help with audit protection because it's documenting the discussion and the decisions that are being made in those meetings. So finally, how do you document a board meeting? This is important because this is the key that helps pull all these together. This helps with that audit protection. This helps with that asset protection. This helps keep you accountable. It also helps with all the tax savings that come from it and the meetings behind that. So how do you properly document it? First, you want to have a formal board implementation put into your corporate documents. We talked about making sure that was done. And then every meeting that you need to have meeting minutes. You need to have somebody that's going to be responsible for recording who was at that meeting, where did that meeting occur, what time did that meeting occur, who was all there, what was discussed, what was resolved. These are going to be your meeting minutes, and these are going to be the support or backup proof of what happened at that board meeting. And you're going to have somebody that's on your board recording this for you and documenting all of that. One thing I want to say is don't abuse this idea of a board, but don't be afraid to use it in your business as well. And when I say here, size kind of matters. So let's say that you have a business that's doing $10,000 a year in income, in gross receipts, in revenue. Having a board meeting every single month probably doesn't make sense for that. Maybe having a 2-hour board meeting or just a meal once a year makes sense for that business. So don't abuse this. Don't say, I'm going to have a monthly board meeting for my $10,000 a year revenue business. Probably doesn't make sense. You have a $250,000, $300,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever it might be. Now we're talking, okay, maybe we're doing those monthly board meetings. Maybe when you have that larger business, maybe you're doing one board meeting where you're going to go somewhere for 2 days. You're going to fly to Colorado and you're going to have a 2-day board meeting out there. That's when things start to make sense. But again, don't abuse this. Size matters. Make sure what you're doing makes sense for your business. It's ordinary and necessary for the size of your business. And then of course, keep receipts for everything that you're doing. The lodging, the meals, the documentation of everything. Keep receipts, write on them who, what, where, when, why. That's how we can properly defend this. So let's kind of go back around. Again, let's break this down. What is a board of advisors? It's a group of people to help provide advice, counsel, and support to you and your business. How do we set one up? You need to implement it in your corporate documents. You need to pick who's going to be on that board, whether it's family members, friends, colleagues, whoever it might be. And then you need to set up a regular cadence. So you're going to be having these board meetings on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, an annual basis, whatever it might be. Then we want to talk about the tax benefits. When you host these board meetings, any travel related to that board meeting, tax deductible. Any meals related to that board meeting, tax deductible, at least up to 50%. Hopefully the wheels are starting to turn here. Oh, here's some really good potentials and ways to use this to our advantage from a tax perspective. We also talked about the 14-day home rental rule or the Augusta rule, where you can rent out your personal residence to your business and potentially pay no income taxes on that rental income. Other benefits of a board: helps provide some asset protection, helps bring outside help into your business, helps keep you accountable as a business owner, helps with planning and audit protection. And then how do you document a formal board meeting? First off, you have to, every meeting, have a formal meeting minutes of where was the meeting, when did the meeting occur, who was at the meeting, and what was discussed, what was resolved at that meeting. Don't abuse this, but make sure you take advantage of what's readily available to every single business owner out there, regardless of how you're organized. And then obviously keep receipts to help back up everything that's happening at these board meetings. So now you know, a board of advisors isn't just for show. It's your secret weapon for growth strategy and, yes, serious tax deductions. From leveraging the Augusta rule to involving your family in future planning, this is how smart entrepreneurs stay ahead. If you're ready to turn your board meetings into business boosters, I've got more tax saving tips and business building strategies waiting. Hit the follow button, and don't forget, the best business advice often comes from the boardroom, even if that boardroom is your dining room table. Now, if you want to start actually lowering your tax bill and need assistance to go from tax planning to fully implementing tax strategies, check out TaxHelm. We're offering a free discovery call. Just click the link in the notes below to book it now. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.